UFC 315 is headlined by Bilal Muhammad defending his belt for the very first time, and he is fighting Jack Della Maddalena. They did some shuffling. JDM was supposed to fight Leon Edwards, but they moved him to UFC 315. He's getting his first crack at the title. He has to fly from the other side of the world, and the UFC is basically saying, you get your two corners, you'll get a couple of hotel rooms, you got to figure out the rest. So Jack Della Maddalena, a gentleman ranked very highly in the world, a gentleman who is fighting for a world title, is crowdfunding, bringing his team with him to the biggest moment of his entire life, bringing his support system with him to try to change his life. The question becomes, what should the UFC be doing for all their fighters, not just the main events, but then specifically, what should they be taking care of? How much is too much to ask for? And is it crazy that JDM is crowdfunding, bringing his team with him for the biggest fight of his career? My name is Angelo. This is Josh Thompson, and welcome to Bad Takes. Josh, you've traveled. We talked about this in a different video. And typically, the UFC will cover one corner, right? Or potentially one hotel room. I managed fighters for a good chunk of time, and I'm sleeping on the floor or booking my own room and things like that because they're not covering your whole team. You can get yourself there, or we'll get you there. We'll get you one coach. You want to bring other people, that's fine. That's on you. But when have you had to come out of pocket or do those other things? Is it expected? Is it a factor? Is it something where, yeah, it's ridiculous, I have to pay for these people because I can't compete with just one coach? Or like, where is it just sort of crazy that fighters have to come out of pocket to travel for fights?
Well, I've been lucky enough to when I had to travel, the fighter's manager, whoever it was able to cover my hotel. I'll give you an example. I traveled to corner Habib quite a few times. And when I did, his manager, Ali, would basically pick up my hotel room and say, hey, this is your room. They like their space. Fighters like their space, whether they're with their wife or whether they're with, their chief second, whoever that was. At the time, that was me. And they were because I had a pretty good relationship with Habib, but we weren't as close as we are now at the time. So Ali was like, look, I'll make sure that you get set up. You have your own room. And it worked out. And the other thing too, is that like wherever I would normally go, I would have some sort of friendship or relationship. If it was the East Coast, I'd probably go and stay with my mom. My mom was in Jersey, stepdad, everything like that. They're all out there. So I'd go and stay there. If it was ever like on the West Coast, I had friends, in Oregon and Washington and in Idaho. It didn't matter. Arizona, Nevada, always had places that I could find ways to stay. Hotel Tonight is also a great app when you're looking to book something on short notice and get a really good rate. And they basically just kick out whatever hotel rooms they have for dirt cheap. And they're normally nice hotels. So, I mean, I remember staying at some of like the Bellagio I got for like $89. And I booked it literally at like 8 o'clock at night because 8 or 9 o'clock at night, the fights had just about to end. And I booked it. It was like $89 for the night. I'm like, all right, perfect. Drop my bag off and fucking go out and hang out. Really didn't even need the hotel room. Just needed a place to put my bag, basically. So, there's moments like that. What I think the UFC needs to be on hook for, they're on hook for what they need to be on hook for. The thing I would like to say is for non-co-main or non-main events, I would like to see them pay for two corners because one corner, it's a lot to deal with a fighter. You're running to get them food. You're running to get them, you're warming them up. You got to grapple with them. You've got to do a lot of things with them. Having two people makes it easier. Hey, I'm going to go down. I'm going to have him work the mitts real quick. Why don't you go get him some food? So as soon as he come back, he can eat. You're trying to keep that same routine like we just talked about with the Joe Pyfer video about how you just want to make sure that your fighters are not breaking their routines, that they can have the same type of routine that goes on fight day, whatever it is, that they would have at home. And so that being said, having two corners, I think should be allowed at all times. So right now, if you're not the main event, you don't get two corners. So you get one, you can come, they can come, but they can get a cornering pass, but they're not being paid for, their flight's not being paid for. Now, if you are the main event, you get two corners, I believe. You can have four corners in the corner, though, if you're the main event, but they only fly out two corners. You get two hotel rooms, I believe. And, your corners can stay there. But if you're if you're not the co-main or you're not the main event, then you only get you in one corner in one hotel room. So imagine if you have three corners, which most fighters have three corners, because you have a grappling coach, you have a striking coach, and you have probably either a wrestling coach or some sort of strength conditioning coach or something along those lines. You've got a third coach. There's always a third coach in the mix, whether it's a cardio coach, a strength conditioning coach, whatever it is. You have that person that knows what your breaking point is in terms of pushing the pace. No, you've got it in you. What are you doing? Push harder. So having three corners is is ideal. I think that the UFC should pay for 2 hotel rooms every single time because most of these fighters, they want to bring their wife, or some of them like to have their kids in their room, and you can't have that with 2 other grown men in your corner sleeping in your room. So I think two hotel rooms, because most of these places they go, they've got to deal with the hotel anyways, and the rate's like $90, $120, even though the room is normally $350. They're booking 2 floors, 2 levels of hotel rooms for their staff, for the fighters, for everybody, right? And sometimes they're executives that come and all this other stuff. They've booked 2 or 3 floors of hotel rooms. And so being able to book a fighter an extra room is not too much to ask. Those are just my takes, I think, on it. I'm not asking them to do too much. I think the UFC should be able to pay for, if you're not the main event, 2 hotel rooms and 2 corners along with yourself. So it's just 3 people all together with 2 hotel rooms. And then if you're the main event, you should be able to fly out 3 to all your corners, because this is a huge fight for you. This is the biggest fight of your probably life, most of them. And if you're the main event, fly out 4 of your 4 corners that you get, and you get 2 hotel rooms because you get multiple beds. They can sleep together. I'm not trying to, they can bring cots in. They can figure it out. Like you said, you slept on the floor, Angelo, and the fighter still gets maybe his own room or with one corner, or his kids can come in with his wife. And sometimes if you're the main event, they get you a suite. So the suite has the one private room where you and your wife can stay with the kids. And, the living room can be for your 1 or 2 of your corners. And then the other room can be for 1 or 2 of the other corners. So that's not too much to ask. I don't believe. In terms of food, well, you get per diem pretty much every single day. On top of that, the hotel normally has food. And so you're pretty well set. I don't think that's too much to ask.
I don't think so either. There's only really 2 careers where you have to come out of pocket for a lot of things. One is school teachers. School teachers have to buy like crayons and supplies for their classrooms, which is crazy.
That's the most retarded thing I've ever heard.
It's nuts. Like, where do the taxes go? Why are we buying? Teachers who don't make that much to begin with have to buy supplies for their classroom, and undercard fighters who don't make that much to begin with have to come out of pocket to fly their coaches. Yes, in theory, they could do none of it. Have one single coach, stay in one room, and make it all work. In theory. But you're trying to build your career. You're trying to have the best physical performance you could possibly have. And in order to do so, you need the right people in the ear. You need to be prepared. You need to be well fed. You need all those things. So it is a wild situation where this is a professional sport. These are professional athletes. I understand it's not like team sports where you have a long-term contract. It's really just you're an independent contractor. But it does seem a little crazy that fighters have to come out of pocket for those extra pieces, right? Another coach and things like that. If you want to be a drama queen, I don't want to stay in the fighter hotel, I want to stay, then that's on you. But at the very least, you should have the number of allowed corners by the State Athletic Commission. The UFC should cover their travel. The fighters should get their own room. Corners should get their own room. We're talking an extra, $1,500 per fighter, maybe, tops, to cover those things.
That's a lot. I mean, $1,500 a fighter, or $1,500 per fighter. It's actually, that's not getting anywhere near that.
Yeah.
It's not anywhere near that. You're paying another, probably, I'd say 500.
Yeah.
That's it.
So just a little bit more to,
for me to register my corners, they pay out of pocket. It comes out of my purse. And then your registration for them, like your corner fees or dues, it's like $50 or $100. It's not, I know that comes out of the fighter though. That doesn't come out of the UFC. So the UFC is really just paying for the flights, and which, depending on where you are in the world, it could end up being a lot more. Depending on where that is. And then, but then just the hotel is only like another probably $300. Let's just say at max $500.
Yeah. Yeah. It is crazy. And I am surprised that hasn't changed over time, because the smaller promotions, in theory, and obviously depending on the level of UFC fighter you are, you negotiate whatever you're going to negotiate, right? But in smaller promotions, like when Nick Newell was fighting for XFC and he signed that contract, when I worked with Nick and Ali, when Ali was running World Series of Fighting, and we negotiated Nick's contract there, we negotiated extra hotel rooms and extra flights for this exact reason. Like, hey, here's the pay. Nick doesn't want to come out of pocket for hotel rooms and flights for his team. And, Ali's a normal, reasonable guy, and so we made it work, and he paid for 2 hotel rooms, 2 corners to fly, and all that. But at the UFC level, unless you are like a guy, you don't have that sort of wiggle room or negotiation room. They know they're the only game in town, and it's going to be This is the contract. Deal with it.
There's no negotiations. I can guarantee
Yeah.
you guys that. Look, I've had conversations with Joe Silva. He's like, look, if you guys don't like the contract, that's cool. I'll give you an extra $2,000 or $3,000. He's like, but then I'm just going to get you guys that I know we're going to probably beat you, and they're going to be the toughest fights of your life. So there's ways that they can wiggle it to make sure like you get fights that sometimes favor you, and then there's ways that they wiggle it where you get fights that they don't support you, and they know what they're doing. Like if you're not signing where they want them, where they want you to sign, well, they're going to cause some problems for you. They're going to give you the toughest and hardest fights they could possibly give you, and that's
That
the way it's been.
that sort of happened to Nick Newell, right? He wanted to get into the UFC. Nick Newell, if you guys don't know, his one arm, right? He is born with a congenital amputation. The arm ends after the elbow, and the UFC was like, they've talked about it a few times. Sean Shelby, a few other people talked about it publicly, like, love the kid. It's just a tricky situation because if he goes out there and he gets mauled, then it just looks worse than it is. We know he's a phenomenal fighter and athlete, but the perception's a little tricky.
Yep.
Ultimately, Ali is who got him on the Contender Series. Ali called me and was like, hey, I'm going to go meet with Dana. Is it cool if I talk to him about getting Nick in here? I said, yeah, of course. I don't care. Like, we all want what's best for Nick. So Dana's like, fine, we'll do it. But he's not going to like his matchup. And then they gave him a Division I All-American wrestler, and that was that fight. It's like, yeah, this is like probably the worst Alex Munoz. It's like, this is the worst possible stylistic matchup. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. Hey, we gave him a shot, didn't work out. Move on.
Yeah. It relieves the pressure off of them. There's that fucking noise again.
Yeah. I don't think they can hear it once it's done, though.
Oh, I can hear
it. Luckily, it was just a few clicks. Yeah.
I mean, look, the UFC, we have constantly been on, fighters have constantly been on the UFC about things like this. And let's just be honest. They have done things though, where people seem to forget. Like we keep asking for more. And that's just, I think, in human nature. Like you get a little bit, you want more. There's old sayings that stick around. The reason why they stick around is because it's fucking true. If I give you enough rope, you're gonna hang yourself. And there's a reason. You keep wanting more, you keep wanting more, you keep wanting, you're gonna eventually be like, fuck, you're just gonna keep doing it. That's why organizations like the UFC and organizations like the NFL, they're a hard stop on certain things. This is what one of their hard stops is. You get one flight, you get one hotel. Take it or leave it. Okay. This is what our pay scale is. There was a fighter that just rejected a contract by the UFC. I believe he won in the Contender Series. They offered him, whatever the pay was, and it's just a straight standard Contender Series contract, and he turned it down. And everyone's like applauding him, like as if it's some big deal. Like the UFC doesn't care. They'll call him on short notice, be like, hey, we still want you to fight. You'll get a little bit bump in pay, but you're going to take a short notice fight to get into the UFC, and you've got to perform. That's how they work. If you don't take the Contender Series contract, they're cool with it, but we'll call you on short notice when you need you. So you may get 7 days, you may get 2 weeks. Who knows? You may get 3 weeks, but you're going to take the fight. And if you don't take the fight, you're going to be basically just forgotten about. We'll move on to somebody else. And so look, I've had these conversations, like I said, with Joe Silva a while back, is their pay structure is based like it's 50 and 50, 70 and 70, but it goes up by threes in increments. So 73, 73, 76, 76. And it's like, yeah, but I want more in the ups. And he's like, cool. I'll go from 73 to 73 to 78. So I'll put you up by fives. He's like, but then now I'm going to give you guys that I know that'll probably beat you or give you a hard fight. You choose. Which one do you want? And so you put fighters in a really shitty situation. But I don't want people to forget about the fact that the UFC offers medical insurance. And I got to be honest, that saved my ass a couple times. Because when you're offered medical insurance and you get, like I ended up fracturing my leg and they paid for it all. Because what you do is you come out of pocket with a $1,500 deductible, but the rest of it is paid. 100% the rest of it is paid. And I was like, hey, that's like my own insurance didn't even cover that much.
So this is medical insurance just in the fight itself or just
during training.
Gotcha.
So they offer medical insurance that covers you during training. So it's $1,500 no matter what it is. So look, if I go in and I'm sick, that is like, you're not going to use that because you got to pay the $1,500 deductible. But for major injuries, like I had bone spurs in my elbow. I called up my doctor. He's like, yeah, we should probably get them removed before you start your next camp. You'll be out for, 5-6 weeks, and you won't be able to kick or take a kick there or anything, but you'll be able to still jab and do other things with them. I'm like, all right, cool. Went and got it taken out. Cost me $1,500. It was a $35,000 surgery.
Yeah.
Thought my own insurance would have cost me $2,800 with my deductible. And so it made sense to use theirs every single time. It was $1,500 deductible every single time you used it, though. So if you used it 2 or 3 times a year, but it was still cheaper than me using my own insurance. And I had really good insurance.
Yeah.
And so there's that. Now, the other thing is, look, you got the PTI, the Performance Institute, UFC's performance, or PI or whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't know where that T came from.
I don't know where a PTI. I was thinking of a talk show. But the PI, you got the UFC PI. They feed them breakfast and lunch. I'm sorry, but most of fighters' expense is food. It's all organic. It's all good food. It's all healthy food. It's all freshly cooked. Like, you can't argue with that. You know, plus you've got therapy there. You've got a hot tub. You've got a sauna. You've got a cold plunge. You've got things there that fighters use on a daily basis. Doesn't make any sense for them not to want to move to Vegas. I know that there's a couple big gyms that are considering moving their gyms from where they're at in the country to Vegas because all the fighters have access to the PI. So that makes it easier too for the UFC. The more shows we have at the Apex, the less I have to fly people because all the top gyms are here in Las Vegas. So look, in the scheme of all this, they know what they're doing. They're making sure that there's less expenditures coming out of their pocket, but they're also having access to every single top fighter. And it's a big deal, but they offer a lot of great things. The PI is a huge deal, okay? And the medical insurance is a huge deal. And so when fighters are complaining about the 1 or 2 things, that they're not doing right because they're a multi-billion-dollar company, I can agree with you. But let's look at the positives too and what they've done in the last 30 years. Huge. Boxing has been around for what, 200 years? No fucking
changes.
Boxing PI.
Sure.
Show me the boxing PI.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, it is.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, you're right, because it is easy to say, oh, they don't pay for flights. That's ridiculous. They should pay for more. And they probably should. It's not a huge expense, and it makes things a little more comfortable for some of the fighters. But there are other things that happen. And it's the same argument with American Idol, right? People complain back in the day about those American Idol contracts, that they're working for nothing. They're not getting paid. They're turning into superstars. It's like, but they signed that contract, and they're a superstar because of that show. And it's a similar sort of narrative. It's like, but he signed this contract. He knew the circumstances the whole time. And now he's famous because of the UFC's marketing team. Obviously the performances in the octagon, but also the UFC's marketing team and the eyes that were on it. And he agreed to all of these terms. So while some of the terms seem unfair, and it does on the surface seem absolutely insane, what do you mean you have to pay for your own flight? So you're crowdfunding hotel rooms? This is crazy. Yeah, it is a little crazy, but at the same time, it's maybe a little cheap, but at the same, everybody agreed to it. These were the terms. We all agreed to this. And, you want to negotiate it next time, negotiate it next time. But this is what everybody agreed to. And you're in this position.
He's in a unique situation because he's from Australia, correct?
Yeah, it's not a cheap flight.
Yeah, it's not a cheap flight. And that's not the shittiest part, is that it's not a cheap flight. Like when you said $1,500, I mean, I was automatically just thinking people that were flying from California to Vegas, or from Florida to Vegas, or whatever it was. I didn't even take into consideration, like, shit, I got to take someone from California to Dubai. Right? I mean, like, yeah, of course, it's gonna be about $1,500 probably per fighter, or maybe even per corner. So I understand what you're saying in that take, but he's in a unique situation. He will get 2 corners. Let's be honest, you really don't need more than 2 corners. That's it. You need a striking coach and a grappling coach or wrestling coach, and that's about it. So you pick and choose. If you want to take your 3rd corner, go right ahead. But I understand where he's coming from. But how many people does he want to bring, and who is he flying? And all the people that are in your camp, they all want to be part of it because it's a big deal. I remember when Cain Velasquez fought for the title on Fox, or not for the title, but defended it on Fox. All of us were talking about we wanted to go. We wanted to be there. We wanted, like, everybody. We couldn't get tickets because it was sold out, and it was just like we all thought we could wiggle our way in. No, but it's like the UFC's, it's a business at the end of the day. They're making sure that their bottom line stays low. And look, they're gonna do what they do and keep doing that. That's what they're going to do. That's how they're going to grow this thing into the NFL.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if some of the managers, the more powerful manager space, maybe get some airline sponsorships and some things like that. Try to work something out.
Yeah, earn your money, managers.
Yeah.
Earn your money, managers. Go out there and do your thing.
Well, that's our take. Let us know what you think about the idea of crowdfunding travel for the rest of your corners, and if you think the UFC does enough for their fighters. And let us know below what you think our next bad take should be.